Hello YouTube, and welcome to my little corner of the internet. You've probably heard of various people and their garages, you may have heard of the workshop, you may even have come across the shed of dreams. Or just to be different, I'm doing things in the conservatory. Why the conservatory? Well, like most people with motorbikes, my garage is rather full up with the rest of my bikes and my other projects, so there just isn't the room to work in there, and definitely no room for filming. So I thought, I've got a conservatory, it's a bit warmer than the garage, and hopefully the light will be a lot better as well. So, welcome to the conservatory. So, what we're going to be doing? Well, this little project is a Honda CBR400. It's the NC23, so it's the earlier model, but it does share a lot of parts with the later NC29 and also with the Honda CB1, the NC27. So, hopefully, some of the bits you see me do on this will also apply to those as well. This particular bike, it was my first ever track bike, my first dedicated track bike, and it's the one I did my rookie season of racing on, albeit not very successfully. It was seriously underpowered and a bit overweight. But I kind of got attached to it, so it's time for a bit of a rebuild. There's a reason it needs a rebuild. Unfortunately, one day up at Alton Park, I had, as Casey Stoner would say, a situation where my ambition outweighed my ability. And the result was a bit of this, a little bit of that, some of this, and I finally ended up like this. Now, although I looked dead in the photograph, I did actually get away relatively unscathed. Had a couple of bruises on my arm and that was about it. And that really is down to having a decent set of boots and gloves, good set of leathers with armour in them, and most importantly a back protector. If there's one thing I would stress, if you're going to do track days and you're going to take up racing, get yourself a back protector. They really are an essential piece of kit, and in fact for a lot of race clubs now, they are insisting on them as a mandatory requirement. So, although I fared pretty well out of it, the poor bike didn't. We ended up smashing the master cylinder, smashed the lock stops off the frame, bent the forks slightly, destroyed all the original bodywork, flattened the tank down to about half its original capacity, bent the subframe, and probably various other bits and pieces that I've yet to discover. As you can see, I did chuck another set of fairings on it, we did chuck another master cylinder on it to try and get it running again, but it became blatantly obvious the first time I took it out around the track that yeah, things weren't quite as straight as they should be, and the handling was a bit interesting. So it got retired to the back of the shed, and yeah, in about a sentimentality I've decided to drag it back out again, and we're going to rebuild it from the ground up. Because, as I said, the lock stops were smashed, we're going to have to reframe it. I suspect there's probably a bit of bent, the frame's got a little bit bent out of shape, certainly the head bearings would have been buggered. So what I've done is, hopefully you can see just behind me in the background, there is another frame out in the garden. I did buy a complete rolling chassis of a bike from a well-known auction site. It had a ruined engine in it, so that wasn't salvageable, but it should have most of the parts I need. So the idea is, like I said, we're going to strip this right down and rebuild it using the other frame that's currently residing in the garden. And that's really it. So yeah, let's get on with the project. Well, actually, it makes sense because this is just the introduction. I'm going to give you a little look around the conservatory and show you what bits I've got to help me build the bike. One thing I could really do with is a lift. I can see why most YouTubers have them, because sitting crouching on the floor, really not that comfortable. Anyway, bear with me, I'm going to move the camera and we'll have a little look around the conservatory. Okay, quick guided tour around the conservatory. Obviously we've got the bike, kind of fits in nicely. Should be just about enough room to work on it. Moving round, we have the whiteboard, always handy for making notes and on. Write down parts as and when you require them to remind you to order them.
got the toolkit here. Now I'm going to talk a bit more about that in another video. So that's the toolkit we're going to be using. Got a little table which the cat is most annoyed about, that I've plonked the toolkit on there and disturbed her. She should normally be out here sunbathing, but she's gone off in a huff. Now, workbench. Because I'm working in a fairly small conservatory, I've knocked up a temporary workbench, and it's basically one of the tool carts that you can get off eBay for about 25 quid. All I've done is I've turned the top shell, the top tray, upside down, and I've covered it, or I've sandwiched it with a bit of plywood underneath, a bit of plywood on top to give me a mobile workbench. So the idea is I can move that around to wherever I need it and hopefully not take up too much space. I've got a little vise here. This is actually a machine vise. It's not really a proper vise, but it's one I had kicking around, so it'll do. And then I've modified it a little bit more so that I've attached some cheap baking trays to give me a couple of storage drawers in case I need it. Moving on, got the all-important radiator to keep things warm. And then finally, we've got some shelves to put parts on as we dismantle the bike for general storage. Okay, so that was the quick guided tour around the conservatory and what I've got to work with. So I guess YouTube tradition kind of dictates now. We fire up the rock music and we start a little time-lapse montage of me stripping the bike down. Yeah, that's not going to happen. I've only got so much space, and the last thing I want to do on the first day is fill it all up with bits of motorbike everywhere. So the plan is I'm going to do as much as I can on the bike whilst it's all in one piece, and gradually take bits off, refurbish them, put them on the shelf, and eventually, yeah, we will get to a stage where it all has to be dismantled, but I want to keep it all together as much as possible so I can move things around and work as best we can. So that ends the introduction. The first job we're going to do is sort out the front brakes. I'm going to set up another little video showing you that soon. Okay, thanks for watching.